Your phone is blowing up with messages about stimulus checks. You're seeing posts everywhere claiming $400 is coming, maybe $200, possibly even $2,000. People are sharing articles with dates. Your aunt sent you a link. Someone on TikTok says deposits start this week, and you're sitting there thinking, is this actually happening? Did I miss something? When do I get my money? How do I make sure I don't lose out? And deep down, you're scared you're about to miss money you desperately need. I'm going to tell you everything you need to know right now. The complete truth about what's happening, what's not happening, where these rumors started, who's actually getting money, who isn't, and most importantly, how to protect yourself from the scams that are absolutely everywhere right now trying to steal from you. Smash that like button because millions of people are being fed false information and they're making terrible decisions based on lies. When you hit this reaches more people who need the truth. Do it right now. Let me answer your main question immediately. Are brand new $200 or $400 stimulus checks approved and being sent to everyone in America? No. The answer is no. There is no new federal stimulus program. The IRS and Treasury Department have both stated clearly and publicly that no new payments are being distributed to the general public for the remainder of 2025 or throughout 2026. If somebody is telling you that checks are being mailed next week to everyone, that person is either completely wrong or deliberately lying to you. But I know you're not satisfied with just that answer because you keep seeing this information everywhere and you're wondering where it's all coming from. So let me break down every piece of this puzzle so you understand exactly what's real, what's confusion, what's wishful thinking, and what's an outright scam designed to steal your money. Subscribe right now and turn on those notifications. The volume of false information about stimulus payments is absolutely insane, and you need someone you can trust to give you straight facts. I watch this situation every single day. Hit subscribe so you never miss critical information. Here's the piece of truth buried in all these rumors. President Trump has been publicly discussing the idea of sending new payments to Americans. He's posted about it multiple times on social media platforms. He's mentioned it in media appearances. He's thrown out specific dollar amounts, $200 or $400, $2,000. He's stated these would be financed through tariff revenue and targeted at people with low and middle incomes who are struggling with rising costs. All of those statements are factually accurate. He really did say these things publicly. But here's the absolutely critical distinction you must understand. Wanting to do something and actually doing it are completely separate realities. Trump's public statements about sending checks represent proposals, concepts, ideas he's expressed interest in pursuing. But they are not enacted policy. They're not law. Congress hasn't passed any legislation creating these payments. There's no bill that's been voted on. There's no funding that's been allocated. There's no administrative system at the IRS prepared to distribute anything. There are no scheduled deposit dates. None of the infrastructure required to actually send money exists because nothing has been officially approved. And this matters enormously because of how American government functions. The president doesn't have the authority to simply decide to send out checks to citizens. That's not within his power. Congress controls all government spending. For any stimulus payments to become reality, Congress must draft legislation, hold debates, conduct votes in both the House of Representatives and the Senate, and successfully pass a bill. Only after all of that could the president sign it into law and authorize the Treasury to make payments. Has any of that legislative process occurred? No. Is any of it actively underway right now? Not really. There's discussion, there's talk. But there's no actual bill moving through Congress. Now let me explain why experts and analysts are extremely skeptical this will happen anytime soon, if it happens at all. Distributing $100 or $200 to every qualifying American would cost the federal government somewhere between $300 billion and $600 billion, depending on the exact eligibility criteria. That is a staggering amount of money. Congress would need to identify where that funding comes from, how to pay for it, what programs to cut, or what revenues to raise. And currently, there is absolutely no consensus in Congress about doing this. Republicans are divided. Democrats are divided. There's disagreement between parties and within parties. Without political consensus, legislation doesn't happen, and achieving that consensus looks extremely unlikely given current political dynamics. So when you encounter posts claiming checks are absolutely coming next month with specific dates, ask these questions. Where's the legislation? When was the vote? Where's the funding authorization? If those elements don't exist, the checks don't exist either, no matter how convincing the post looks. Now I need to address the one specific situation where some people genuinely are receiving money, because this exception is creating enormous confusion. If you filed your 2020 tax return, you were eligible for the recovery rebate credit from the 2021 stimulus round. You never claimed that credit at the time, and you submitted your tax return before the April 15, 2025 deadline, you might now be receiving that payment. This would be $400 for individuals or higher amounts for families who qualified under those old rules. But understand what this is. This is not a new stimulus program for everyone. This is old money from years ago that you were entitled to but never claimed. If you already received all your COVID-era stimulus payments in 2020 and 2021, this doesn't apply to you. If you never filed a 2020 tax return, this doesn't apply to you. This applies only to a very specific group: people who had unclaimed recovery rebate credits and recently filed to get them. That's a small subset of the population, not everyone. So when someone posts on Facebook that they just received a $400 deposit, it might be this old credit finally processing, not evidence that new stimulus is going out to everyone. But they share it without context, and suddenly everyone assumes brand new checks are being distributed. That's exactly how misinformation spreads like wildfire. Let me discuss who would theoretically benefit if any of these new proposals actually became law, which again, they haven't. Based on Trump's public statements and the structure of previous stimulus programs, payments would likely target individuals earning under $75,000 annually and married couples earning under $150,000. Higher earners, probably those making over $100,000, would likely be phased out or excluded entirely. There's been discussion about potentially increasing amounts for people receiving Social Security benefits, SSI, or disability payments, but once again, these are just concepts being discussed, not actual established policy. None of this is definite or concrete because no actual program exists. These are educated guesses based on proposals and previous programs. There are no official rules because there's no official legislation, and there may never be. I need to address state-level payments because they're adding massive confusion to this situation. Several individual states, including New York, Virginia, and Georgia, have announced their own small rebate or relief programs. But these are state-funded, state-administered programs. They're only available to residents of those specific states. They come with very strict eligibility requirements, and they're typically a few $100s maximum, not $100 or $200 or $400. These are not federal programs. They're not available nationwide. They're not the stimulus checks people are talking about. So when you see a headline announcing stimulus payments, you must verify whether it's discussing a federal payment available to all Americans or a state payment limited to specific residents of one state. Those are fundamentally different things, and the confusion between them is causing chaos. Let me describe what's happening across social media platforms and online communities, because this is probably where you're encountering most of this information. Facebook is absolutely flooded with posts about incoming stimulus checks. TikTok is packed with videos claiming to have exclusive information about payment schedules and amounts. WhatsApp groups are circulating links to websites where you can supposedly track your payment status. Reddit forums are overwhelmed with people frantically asking, when does my payment arrive and where do I apply? But simultaneously, in those exact same spaces, I'm seeing something else. Urgent warnings about scams, constant warnings about fraud, people sharing experiences about receiving official-looking emails, supposedly from the IRS, requesting information verification to release stimulus payments. Fake websites designed to appear legitimate, asking for Social Security numbers and bank account details. Text messages claiming you must pay a processing fee to receive your check. Every single one of these is fraud. All of it represents criminals attempting to steal your personal information and your money. The legitimate IRS never emails citizens requesting personal information. They never call demanding payment to release benefits. They never text links for claiming payments. If you receive any communication following those patterns, it's fraud. Delete it immediately. Block the sender. Don't click any links. Don't provide any information. Report it to the Federal Trade Commission at their fraud reporting website. Let me share what actual people are expressing in these forums because their concerns are valid and you probably share many of them. The most prevalent emotion I'm seeing is pure confusion. People genuinely cannot distinguish what's real from what's fake anymore. They're encountering contradictory information from every direction. Some posts insist checks are coming. Others claim it's completely false. Some say you must apply. Others warn it's all scams. People are absolutely overwhelmed trying to navigate through the noise to find truth. I'm also observing intense hope mixed with desperate need. People are genuinely struggling financially. Inflation has devastated household budgets. Many remember how much the 2020-2021 stimulus payments helped them survive. So when they encounter information suggesting more money might be coming, they cling to that hope because their need is so urgent and real. I'm reading comments like, "Please, God, let this be true. I have no idea how I'll pay my bills next month, and my kids need this money so badly." That desperation is genuine and it breaks my heart. And there's significant anger. Real, justified anger. People feel the government helped them during COVID, but has completely abandoned them now, even though costs remain high and many are still drowning financially. They're frustrated that politicians constantly talk about helping regular Americans, but nothing concrete ever materializes. They're angry that there's always money for other priorities, but never for direct assistance to struggling families. They feel invisible and forgotten. People are expressing serious anxiety about missing out. They're worried that maybe checks are being distributed, and somehow they're going to miss theirs because they didn't apply in time or didn't know the right procedure. This creates vulnerability because in their desperation to avoid missing something they might be entitled to, they become susceptible to scams promising to help them access their payment. And there's resentment about income thresholds and eligibility criteria. People who earn slightly above cutoff amounts complain they make too much to qualify for assistance, but not nearly enough to be financially comfortable. They're frustrated that wealthy people obviously don't need help, while poor people can never seem to actually receive it when they do. There's a pervasive sense that the system is designed to fail people regardless of income level. Let me address the political dimension because it's unavoidable in these discussions. Some people interpret all of this as political manipulation. They believe politicians float these proposals to generate support and enthusiasm, but never actually intend to follow through. They're cynical that Trump keeps discussing checks publicly, but nothing concrete ever happens. Others defend him, arguing he genuinely wants to send payments, but Congress is obstructing it. These discussions become heavily partisan very quickly, with blame directed at Trump, Congress, Democrats, Republicans, or various combinations depending on individual political perspectives. What I'll tell you is this. Regardless of where you assign blame or what you believe about motivations, the outcome remains identical. People need financial help. Politicians talk extensively about providing that help, but actual tangible assistance in the form of real money depositing into real bank accounts is not occurring right now. Talk costs nothing. Only actual legislation and real payments matter at the end of the day. Now let me provide practical guidance about what you should actually do with all this information. First and most important, do not make any financial decisions whatsoever based on stimulus rumors. Do not spend money you don't currently have because you're assuming a check is coming. Do not take on new debt expecting to repay it with stimulus money. Do not make commitments or promises you cannot afford based on anticipated payments. Until actual money is sitting in your bank account, it does not exist for planning purposes. Build your budget exclusively around money you actually possess right now, not money you hope to receive someday. Second, completely ignore any communication requesting that you apply for stimulus or verify information to receive payments. Legitimate stimulus payments don't function that way. When actual stimulus payments were distributed in 2020 and 2021, they were completely automatic. If you had filed taxes, the IRS already had your information and simply sent the money. No application, no verification process. Money just appeared. Any request for you to take action to receive stimulus is guaranteed fraud. Third, exercise extreme caution about which links you click and what personal information you share anywhere online. Modern scammers are remarkably sophisticated. They create websites that perfectly mimic official government sites. They use legitimate-looking logos and seals. They compose emails that sound entirely professional and official. But all of it is engineered to steal your personal information for identity theft or to drain your financial accounts. Unless you are absolutely certain something originates from the actual IRS or Treasury Department official website, do not engage with it under any circumstances. Fourth, obtain your information exclusively from official government sources, the IRS website at irs.gov, the Treasury Department's official website. Verified government announcements through official channels, never from Facebook posts, never from TikTok videos, never from forwarded emails or text messages, never from random websites or blogs. Only official government sources can provide definitive information about whether payments are actually happening, who qualifies, and when distribution occurs. Fifth, if you believe you might potentially be eligible for that old recovery rebate credit I mentioned earlier, consult with a qualified tax professional or thoroughly research the IRS website for information about properly claiming it. But understand that's entirely separate from any new stimulus and only applies to very specific circumstances from years ago. Sixth, manage your expectations realistically and rationally. Even if Congress shocked everyone tomorrow by passing stimulus legislation, implementation would require months. They'd need to draft detailed legislation, conduct extensive debates, hold votes, get presidential signature, and then the IRS would need to construct entirely new systems to process payments, determine eligibility, calculate amounts, and distribute money. We're discussing a timeline of months minimum, quite possibly much longer. So even in the absolute best case scenario where this actually happens, you won't see money next week or even next month. Let me discuss what you should be doing instead of waiting indefinitely for stimulus checks that might never materialize. Research actual assistance programs that exist and are operating right now. If you're experiencing financial hardship, investigate whether you qualify for SNAP food benefits, Medicaid health coverage, utility assistance programs, local charitable assistance, food banks, or other established aid programs. These resources exist currently and can provide help today, not at some undefined future point if Congress maybe possibly decides to act. If you're currently employed but struggling financially, explore whether you can secure additional hours, overtime opportunities, a second job, or freelance work. I understand that's not feasible for everyone due to various circumstances, but if it's possible for you, generating additional income provides far more reliability than waiting for government payments that may never come. If you're carrying debt, proactively contact your creditors to discuss hardship programs, modified payment plans, or temporary relief options. Many companies maintain assistance programs but require you to specifically request them. Don't wait until you're in complete crisis. Take initiative early. Scrutinize your budget carefully, looking for any possible expense reductions. I realize you've probably already cut everything you think you can, but examine it again with fresh eyes. Subscriptions you've forgotten about, services where you could downgrade to cheaper tiers, small behavioral changes that reduce utility costs. Tiny cuts across multiple categories accumulate. Every dollar you successfully save is a dollar you don't need from a stimulus check that might not exist. Actively build connections with community resources and organizations. Local churches, community centers, and nonprofit organizations frequently operate assistance programs. They might help with food, utility bills, job placement services, or various other needs. Don't let pride prevent you from seeking help when you need it. These organizations exist specifically to serve people in your situation. Now let me address the emotional component of this situation because emotions matter and they're valid. If you were genuinely hoping these stimulus rumors were accurate and you're disappointed learning they're not, that disappointment is completely legitimate. It's absolutely okay to feel disappointed. It's okay to feel frustrated and let down. Those emotions are real, and you have every right to them. But try not to let disappointment spiral into despair or drive you toward poor decisions. Acknowledge the reality, allow yourself to feel your emotions about it, then redirect your focus toward factors you can actually control. If you're angry at politicians for constantly discussing help but never delivering actual assistance, channel that anger constructively and productively. Contact your elected representatives directly. Share your personal story with them. Explain what you're dealing with day to day. Participate in elections and vote for candidates whose policies align with your values and needs. Anger that motivates action can potentially create change. Anger that just festers internally doesn't benefit anyone. If you're frightened about your financial situation and future, that fear is entirely understandable and rational. But don't allow fear to paralyze you or make you vulnerable to scammers. Fear can actually motivate positive action, applying for available assistance programs, actively seeking additional income sources, making difficult but necessary budget cuts, planning ahead strategically. Transform fear into fuel for productive action rather than a reason to give up hope. Let me give you completely honest truth about the future of stimulus payments. Could Congress theoretically pass legislation authorizing new stimulus checks at some point? Technically, yes, it's constitutionally possible. Is it likely to happen in the near future? Based on everything we're observing politically and fiscally? No. There's no momentum building toward this. There's no emerging consensus. There's no legislation actively progressing through the system. Could circumstances change? Certainly. Politics can shift rapidly and unexpectedly. But basing your financial survival strategy on that possibility is extremely unwise. The stimulus payments in 2020 and 2021 happened because we faced a global pandemic with unprecedented business closures and historic unemployment levels. That represented an extraordinary crisis that generated rare bipartisan support for extraordinary emergency measures. We're not in that situation currently. Economic conditions are different. Political dynamics are different. Unemployment is lower. Businesses are operating. Drawing direct comparisons between then and now doesn't really hold up. This doesn't mean people aren't genuinely struggling right now. They absolutely are. Inflation has been crushing. Wage growth hasn't kept pace. Countless families face real financial crisis. But Congress isn't treating current conditions as a crisis requiring emergency stimulus payments. Whether that assessment is correct or wrong is a political question open to debate. But it represents the reality we're dealing with regardless of our opinions about it. Here's what I need you to take away from this entire video. 1. There are no new stimulus checks approved or being distributed anytime soon. Trump has expressed desire to send them, but desire doesn't equal reality without legislation. 2. The only payments currently going out are old recovery rebate credits for very specific people who qualified years ago but never claimed them. That's not a general new stimulus for everyone. 3. Some individual states have small, highly limited programs, but nothing remotely resembling the federal stimulus payments from the pandemic era. 4. There are absolutely massive numbers of scams circulating trying to steal your information by falsely promising stimulus payments. Be extraordinarily careful. Don't click suspicious links. Don't provide personal information to anyone. Don't send money to anyone claiming they can expedite your payment. 5. Manage expectations realistically and never make financial decisions based on money that doesn't currently exist in your possession. 6. Focus energy on real assistance programs available now and practical concrete steps you can take immediately, rather than waiting indefinitely for stimulus checks that might never come. I fully understand this isn't the news you wanted to hear. I know you hoped I'd confirm checks are coming and provide specific dates and amounts. I genuinely wish I could tell you that, but providing false hope doesn't actually help you in any meaningful way. What genuinely helps you is understanding reality clearly so you can make informed decisions, protect yourself from scams and fraud, and avoid the disappointment of counting on something that doesn't exist. If this video provided the clarity and truth you needed about stimulus check rumors, I need 3 things from you. First, subscribe to this channel immediately and turn on notifications because misinformation spreads exponentially faster than truth, and you need reliable, accurate updates. If anything changes, if Congress actually does pass legislation, I will tell you the moment it happens. Second, share this video with everyone in your life who's been discussing stimulus checks. They desperately need accurate information instead of rumors and lies. Third, comment below and share. What scams or false information have you encountered about stimulus payments? What have people been telling you? You deserve truth even when it's disappointing. You deserve to understand what's actually real and what's not, so you can protect yourself and your family and make intelligent decisions. Don't allow false hope or scammers to exploit your need for help. Stay informed, stay skeptical of claims that sound too good to be true, and focus on practical, concrete steps you can implement right now to improve your situation with resources that actually exist. Thank you for watching Pension and SSI Updates. I'll see you in the next video. Reintentar Cloud puede cometer errores. Por favor, verifique las respuestas.